And welcome into CBS Sports HQ on this Tuesday. Amanda Garrett, Chris Hassel with you. Tiger is back on tour at Memorial. We heard from him today. Says he's been playing tennis, reading some horror books. But by all means, he does intend to win this weekend.
Reading horror books during a pandemic while holed up, it sounds like something from The Shining. I wonder
or something that Tiger Woods would do.
Where his mind is at. Yeah, like you said, he said he plans to win this week. If he does, he'll become the PGA Tour's all-time winningest player. He's sitting on 82 career victories, tied with Sam Snead. He did play 9 holes today, according to the Tiger tracker. He hit 7 of 9 greens. It's the first time that a tour event has been played in the same place back-to-back weeks since 1957. Tiger entering the tournament tied with Sam Snead, 82 career wins. He's going to be in one of those featured groups, so you'll be able to watch him on PGA Tour Live Thursday and Friday, every single shot. Sam Snead won his 82nd tournament about 55 years ago, so that has stood for a long time. Tiger looks to take his seat atop the list alone this week. We bring in Mark Immelman and Kyle Porter. Both guys listened to Tiger Woods speak this morning at Muirfield Village in Dublin, Ohio. Kyle, what'd you make of what Tiger had to say?
Well, speaking of horror books, I think Bryson DeChambeau's green reading book is my biggest horror book. That's what I would be reading during the pandemic. The Tiger thing, look, the most interesting thing to me, and maybe this is silly, maybe this is dumb, maybe this is just my perspective, Tiger playing on a course with no fans. I think that is going to be so bizarre. And we saw it a couple of years ago. It might have been last year at the Genesis Invitational. There was a Sunday morning. They restarted early. Fans weren't allowed in yet. And I got to say, it looked like a video game. It looked like a Tiger Woods video game in which he was playing from the middle of the fairway and there was no galleries around him. This is just not something we ever see with Tiger. And I think it's going to be kind of a fascinating aspect about this entire week at the Memorial.
You know, Kyle, to that, there were a couple things. I want to reference that Genesis Open where he said he admitted he was physically stiff. He didn't feel well. It was cold. The back wasn't free, and he'd lost power off the tee, and consequently, he finished well down the pack. But he gave us some insight to what he got up to over the pandemic lockdown and the break, where he worked on himself physically. He trained a lot. He was out there at Medalist playing because it was available to play golf at. So apparently he's golfing fit and physically fit as well. And one more thing, he was asked about golf and if they think it's fair, and he quickly responded, and very curtly, he was like, I don't think sport is fair. And that's such an insight into the kind of guy and the mental acumen he has, because golf, you're going to get some bad breaks. And this week, you know, Tiger Woods is out here in a situation he hasn't competed for a while, but it sounds to me like mentally he's pretty well prepared for anything that's likely to transpire.
He's about 20-1 to win the tournament. He's not one of the top favorites. He is on the first page of favorites to win this thing, but we're used to seeing Tiger with a little bit better odds to win a tournament when he's playing well. But Kyle, we just haven't seen him play in a tournament in 5 months. What makes you so confident that he's going to have a chance to compete this week?
Well, at this point in his career, Chris, I value rest over reps. And that's kind of been my line for the last week or so as we've been talking about Tiger. I value that rest. And I go back to his last win at the Zozo Championship in November. He hadn't played a competitive event in 10 weeks. He goes out and wins the Zozo in a field that was pretty good. You know, he's in that final pairing with Gary Woodland. And he goes out and wins for the 82nd time, and he hadn't played. And it just, to me, him getting his body to whatever 100% looks like for Tiger Woods in 2020 is far more valuable than him finishing T6 at the RBC Heritage. I don't think that playing in some of these lesser events with lesser fields really does Tiger a lot of good, as much as resting does, as much as getting his body 100% does. So that's just kind of where I'm at in terms of my confidence level with Tiger getting rest over having these reps.
Well, that's a good call, and I want to...
Go ahead, Mark. Sorry to cut you off there.
No worries. I just wanted to add to that he's coming to a place where he's made 17 of 17 cuts. Now, you can only contend if you make the cut on Friday afternoon. He's won here 5 times. It's a second shot golf course, and he is probably, arguably, one of the most prolific iron players in the game, and he's hit 7 of 9 greens in practice already this morning. So it speaks to, you know, the golf swing probably there. So happy hunting ground, a golf course that suits, a place where he's comfortable. I think it all bodes well for him.
Tiger's playing with Rory McIlroy and Brooks Koepka in one of the great featured groups that we'll have for you this week. Phil Mickelson, Justin Rose, Shane Lowry, okay. But we've got Bryson back after a week off following his win in Detroit. He's grouped with last week's winner, Colin Morikawa, and last year's winner at the Memorial, Patrick Cantlay. And Dustin Johnson returns a couple of weeks after winning the Travelers. He's with Xander Schauffele and Justin Thomas, who lost in that playoff. Mark, this is juicy. These feature groups, boy, you just take your pick.
Certainly. I mean, there's obviously the megawatt grouping of Woods, McIlroy, and Koepka. And I've got my eye on Koepka a little bit. Last week he played in the workday. He was coming in from playing pretty well down in Hilton Head. But he looked a bit scrappy early, but played a pretty fantastic back 9 of 32 to give himself a chance to make the cut. Interesting nuggets. He had good friend and former PGA Tour pro Mark Tunessa on the bag, as Ricky Elliott had tested positive for COVID-19. I'm not sure if Ricky is back this week. I think that will be an important thing to bear in mind. And he has said, Brooks that is, that the mission is clear. He wants to make it to Atlanta for the Tour Championship. There are few events left. So it's time to start doing some work. And he's alongside McIlroy and Tiger. And I think that's the perfect environment to sort of give him just a little extra energy and maybe some edge to dig down deep and bring out his best.
I really love that the Bryson, Cantlay, Colin Morikawa group, because I think you're seeing a bunch of different styles there, right? Styles make fights, styles make golf tournaments, and with Bryson trying to just launch it to the moon versus Morikawa, who's more under control with his iron play, versus Cantlay, who's more deliberate. You know, Cantlay's swing is very, very deliberate. He's a slower guy probably than in terms of his swing than the other two guys. I think that's just going to be a really interesting and unique group. And you've got Morikawa coming in off a win. You know, two of those guys, Bryson and Colin Morikawa, won the last time they played a tournament. So that might be the group that I look at as the hottest group of all of these 4 featured groups.
If you poll 100 different sports fans and ask them who they're most excited to see this week, I would guess 90 of them would say Tiger Woods, maybe 6 or 7 Bryson DeChambeau. But Kyle, you're going with somebody else. Who are you most excited to see this week?
Well, I'm really excited to. I mean, there's a ton of guys. Everybody on this list. I'm really excited to see Rory McIlroy back in action. I think that, you know, him coming back, he had such a great start to 2020, and then you come back amid this pandemic, and he didn't really. The first couple of events back, he didn't really pop like you thought he would. I thought he was going to come back and win a tournament, maybe win 2 of them. Coming back just because of the talent level. So I'm really fascinated to see. He had a couple weeks off, get the game, you know, kind of where he needs it to be. And he's still the guy coming in where everybody else is looking at him and saying, okay, that's probably the biggest talent in the field. That's probably the guy to beat, even though Bryson's a favorite, JT's a favorite, maybe ahead of him. So I'm really interested to see what Rory does in front of Tiger, in front of Brooks. I think it's an opportunity for him to make a statement. It's a major championship-like field. It's going to be a major championship-like venue, which Mark has pointed out. So I'm intrigued to see what Rory is going to do.
You know, Chris, it's not very often that Kyle Porter and I agree on something, but I'm looking forward to Roy. He's come here and he's played well here in the past. He's got 4 top 10s. Kyle makes a good point in that the opening to the season after the lockdown for Rory was a little inconsistent, but he played all arounds, didn't miss cuts, so he got competitive golf under the belt. And for so many of these guys, it's sort of assessing what your weaponry is like under pressure, because you cannot really simulate that under practice. So now he's played 3 events, he went and had 2 weeks off, he will be fresh. He had an idea of what to work on, what to tighten up, what needed to be galvanized. And so he comes in here with a game probably sharp, playing in a grouping that will spur him on. Although I must point out, when he's been paired with Tiger, Tiger has the head-to-head advantage. It'll just be a place where McIlroy can come and show off. He can use the driver. It'll set up the iron game. It's a second-shot golf course. So I'm looking forward to see what sort of form he brings after a little time off.
And again, it's Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, Brooks Koepka in one of the featured groups this week, and we'll have coverage for you on CBS Sports HQ of that. Again, this is the second straight week they're playing at Muirfield Village. Mark, you're there. You're coming to us from a hotel room in Dublin, Ohio, just outside the course. How much harder is this course going to play this week, and is it already starting to take on a new look and a new feel?
Yeah, it'll be taking on a new look already. I mean, we've had bright sunshine. Certainly Monday when the golf course was closed, the practice facility was open. The course was closed Monday, so the superintendent, Chad, Mark, and his staff could get in there and just sort of nurse the place a little bit to health. But the reports are that it's only going to be watered one time this week. Now, there is some rain in the forecast. Now, if you give a firm golf course to guys, that's typically the course's best defense. The greens are going to be up about 2 feet on the stimp meter, and from 11.5 to 13.5, all of a sudden the fright factor is involved on the greens with all these slopes. So firm golf course, punitive rough. It's going to have time to grow. It's going to be cut one time. That's 3.5 inches is where it'll be cut. It's the perfect recipe for major championship type conditions and the type of environment where it's going to test every aspect of one's golf game, including mentally and emotionally. So I think it'll play significantly different to what it did last week.
Yeah, I totally agree with Mark. And you saw John Rahm talk about this earlier this week. I think it might have been on Monday. He used the term U.S. Open-like. And, I hope they don't water it at all. Turn on the sub-air. Make it a 14. Make it a 15 on the stimp. I would love to see these guys tested. Look, we're only getting one major championship this season, right? We got the PGA here in 3 weeks. This is our other major. I mean, this is everybody, 17 of the top 20 guys in the world. Tiger's first tournament back. This is going to be a really elite golf tournament, and I hope they turn it up a little bit. And we see these holes last week. You see 14 as a drivable par 4. You see all these different par 5s. Make them true risk-reward holes where it's really firm and really fast, and you're making guys make decisions about whether to go for it or not that are more difficult decisions. I don't want it to be receptive. I hope it is as fast and as firm as possible, and I think that will make for a great event this week.
100% with you, and hope the rain stays away as well. It's supposed to be sunny today and tomorrow, but chances of rain beginning on Thursday and Friday. Now, we've talked about how the course is going to play different, look different. It was supposed to look a lot different. This was supposed to be the first tournament with fans on tour, but they pulled that plug a couple of weeks ago, and now the PGA Tour announcing no fans for the rest of the season, Kyle.
Yeah, no fans for the rest of the season. I think that was the, I don't know about obvious call, but I think that was the right call. And I think what's going to be interesting now is how does that affect 3 different things? So one, next season, which starts the week after this season on, I think it's September 10th. And then 2, the U.S. Open on September 17th through the 20th. And then 3, the Masters in November. Those are all 3 kind of adjudicated by different organizations. The PGA Tour is going to be in charge of next season, the USGA with the U.S. Open, and then the Augusta National Golf Club with the Masters. Will we see fans at any of those? I thought Tiger was interesting on this today. He kind of insinuated nobody for the rest of the year. He didn't really say that, but he said something like the foreseeable future. And so I just think this is a new reality for, like Tiger said, the foreseeable future. And I'm okay with that. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. It's different, certainly. You don't have the energy, but you also don't have some of the madness that comes with it. So I think it's something to be embraced. I think it's something that's been pretty good so far. And I think it's something that's just going to be a reality for the time to come.
Carl, to build on your observation, coming to the golf course here last week that was prepared for fans because Memorial was supposed to be the first event that was going to allow 8,000 fans in. There were all the testing booths and stuff at the entrances to the golf course. There were signposts that were warning against COVID-19 symptoms and such. And so it was an eerie sort of a thing to come to this golf course that was prepared for fans, but all of a sudden the rules have been changed. And I commend the PGA Tour for doing that, because since we came back, since even before we came back, they said that their primary priority was the health and safety of the players, the work staff, and everyone involved with putting on events. And so they've stuck to their guns, and it's shown us that they've been prepared to modify plans if things start getting a little iffy. So making the call here, I think, was very smart. Making the call through the rest of the season, I don't know that above my pay grade, and I don't know what the rest of the season will hold in terms of those majors you reference. But right now, the right call, and all these players that are paid to really deal with stuff on the fly and be able to adapt. They've had to adapt, they have, and I'm keen to see how Tiger Woods now will adapt with this come Thursday.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Less than 48 hours away from when we tee things up. We still have time to get some picks to click from Mark and Kyle. We'll get those in just a few minutes. Check out the First Cut podcast, by the way. The latest episode, Rick Gehman and Greg Ducharme breaking down the field from a daily fantasy perspective.
Well, still to come on HQ, it is Tuesday. That means it is time for our expert picks breaking down the field at Memorial, where they are placing their money. Is it on Tiger, Bryson, JT? We'll find out next. All right, so we haven't seen Bryson DeChambeau since he won at Rocket Mortgage Classic 2 weeks ago. You think I could say that tournament by now? I still can't. He was 23 under for the tournament, finishing 3 strokes ahead of Matthew Wolff. So he took some time off, but we know he's been working out because he, posted it on social media. Now this is Bryson DeChambeau, about 50 pounds lighter, at Memorial 2 years ago when he won. I don't know if we've updated his headshot by now, because I'm pretty sure we're still working with this one. When he won, a much skinnier Bryson DeChambeau, maybe weighing at about, what, 190, you think, Chris?
Yeah, his caddy can't even get his arms around him anymore.
I know. But Bryson, bulky Bryson, is the favorite as of right now to win the Memorial. We'll see if he can repeat what he did 2 years ago, followed by Justin Thomas, Rory Patrick Cantlay, Dustin Johnson, and then Tiger Woods. All right, so let's talk picks. Let's bring back in Kyle Porter and our good friend Mark Immelman to get their picks for Memorial. Now, Mark, you normally don't get to join us for this segment. You're stuck in your hotel room. You got some fresh towels. We're very excited for you. So we're going to start with your sleeper, and you have 2 of them. And Mark, this is kind of like a spelling bee for you.
I do, Amanda. I just picked these because I wanted you guys to say them right after me. First off, I'm going with Christian Besaidnout, young golfer from South Africa, who has a penchant for showing up in the big moments. When the Players' Championship was cancelled, he was leading before Hideki Matsuyama went out in the afternoon. Beautiful iron game, beautiful swinger of the golf club, Christian Besaidnout. And then there's Jane Watanabe, who just a couple seasons ago at the PGA Championship finished 3rd. It was at Bethpage Black. Big golf course, very accurate guy. And I have a sense that at a golf course that's going to play like a major, 1 or 2 of those guys may be worth your while.
I love the size of font we had to use on those names there, Mark. I've got Lucas Glover this week, 125 to 1. Lucas Glover, in tournaments like this where you have a ton of talent, you want somebody who is pretty deep down, but also a really great ball striker. And Lucas Glover, to me, can ball strike it with anybody at the top of this field, with a Rory, with a Jon Rahm, at least for a tournament. And Lucas Glover's been really good since the restart of the PGA Tour. He's got 4 straight top 25s. He's not a great putter, so essentially you're just betting on, will he have a really good putting week? That's not necessarily a great bet with somebody like Lucas Glover, but if he does, when he does, he's very competitive with guys at the top of the world. So I really like Lucas Glover at Muirfield Village in this week.
All right, let's go with the top 10 lock. Kyle, we'll start with you here. I feel like this could be an easy pick or kind of difficult because it's such a stacked field. So who do you like for a top 10 lock?
Well, it is a difficult pick. You're right, Amanda. It's almost harder when there's so many different guys in the field because there can only be 10 guys in the top 10. I like Justin Thomas. I'm a little bit stealing this from Mark. I think he's right on about some of the bounce back for JT this week. I think JT was pissed about last week. He got a 3-stroke lead with 3 to go over somebody who only has 1 PGA Tour win, somebody who you should be kind of closing out at the very end. And he makes 2 bogeys in his last 3 holes and then loses it in a playoff. I think JT is going to take out his frustration there on the rest of the field. And not to mention, it's not just that. It's the fact that his ball striking in the 3 events that he's played since the restart, he might have played 4, has been awesome. And he hasn't really putted it that great. Even last week at the Word Day Charity Open, his putting was it was okay. It wasn't elite. It wasn't maybe to the level that we would normally see at Justin Thomas. So I love him this week to bounce back to top 10 and to really be in contention again at the Memorial.
Kyle, my top 10 lock is someone who grabbed the lion's share of the headlines before Tiger Woods arrived on the scene, and I'm talking about BRYSON DeChambeau. I mean, here's a guy that was next to unbeatable. In fact, Kyle, you mentioned that you thought at the time he was probably the leading golfer in the world, just manhandling golf courses with driver, giving himself wedges into targets, and then he ironed out the putting issues at the Rocket Mortgage, and all of a sudden he wins a tournament where you basically drive it well and you putt it well. And that's going to be a large part of the equation this week at Muirfield Village. He's coming to a place where he's won before. So I feel like BRYSON just, stays on the horse and he keeps on putting up the prolific birdie count he's been putting together. So I'm going for BRYSON in my top 10 lock.
All right, let's go for the big one. Let's do pick to win. Mark, I'm going to start with you because you're going with JT. Now, he was my pick to win last week, so he broke my heart. I hope Kyle's right, that he's a little bit angry. Tell us why you think Justin Thomas is going to win this tournament, Mark.
Well, Amanda, Kyle said a bunch of it. I think the chip on the shoulder is a big deal. And even these guys with the superhuman type skill that they have, they need some bulletin board stuff to just get them up a little bit, because remember, there are no fans. And I think coming off having spilled a 3-stroke advantage with a few holes left Sunday afternoon, Justin was smarting some. He said as much, and I think that's just going to egg him on a little bit to dig in there a little deeper, to grind a little harder. I'm sure he got some good rest Monday and will come out and get the nose right back to the grindstone. The game is there physically. We saw him under contention under the highest of pressures Sunday afternoon and workday. So that's going to let him know, okay, what did not work out under pressure? I'm sure he and his dad, who is on site, will work on that Tuesday or Wednesday. So roll around Thursday morning, this guy is going to be ready both physically, mentally, and emotionally.
I'm going with the 2014 champion at this event, somebody who I think is coming in way under the radar amid the Tiger talk, the BRYSON talk, the RORY talk, everybody else. Hideki Matsuyama. He played really well in the first 2 rounds last weekend at the World Day Charity Open. He faded on Saturday and Sunday, didn't play great, but he is he's a ball striker again that can just roll with everybody at the top of this field. He's been a bad putter so far this season, even for him. I know he's always not a great putter, but I think the putting will bounce back at some point, and I love him at this number, again, under the radar, 22, 25 to 1, somewhere in that range. I love Hideki Matsuyama this weekend.
All right, Kyle Porter, Mark Immelman, thanks so much for joining us and giving us your picks. We'll see who's right come Sunday. Hopefully one of you are. Mark, enjoy your fresh towels, by the way. All right, so recapping the picks, Mark, his sleeper. Let's just go with Jazzy and Christian Bezuidenhout. I'm just going to go with Jazzy at this point. Top 10 lock, BRYSON DeChambeau. His winner, Justin Thomas. We'll see if that chip on the shoulder does play out. Kyle Porter, his sleeper, Lucas Glover, top 10 lock. JT, and his winner, Hideki Matsuyama. By the way, if you would like to read more about their picks, also Rick Gaiman, all of our guys, our golf experts now, go to Sportsline. You can join for just $1 right now, sportsline.com/join. The promo code is Philly. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.